Prince Andrew now faces a trial in the U.S. over a sexual abuse lawsuit. This comes after a federal judge in New York dismissed his request to get the lawsuit thrown out. It was filed in August of last year by a woman who claimed she was raped by the Duke of York when she was a teenager. Well, she alleged that disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein and recently convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell forced her into having intercourse with Prince Andrew. And because of the judge's ruling, the lawsuit against Prince Andrew can now move forward. So what will happen next? For more, let's bring in Madeline Penley, who is an attorney. Thanks so much for joining us, Madeline.
Thanks for having me.
So it's interesting, this U.S. District Judge who gave the green light for this lawsuit to move forward wrote in an opinion that Andrew's lawyers failed to successfully challenge the constitutionality of the lawsuit filed in Virginia. So what's your reaction to this?
Essentially, I'm not surprised. So Prince Andrew's argument was that New York's law, which is called the Child Victims Act, that extends the statute of limitations for child sex abuse claims was unconstitutional because it was vague, essentially violating his due process rights. It's not vague. His argument was because it allows people to sue who were less than 18 years old when the abuse occurred, it's confusing because the age of consent in New York is 17. The plaintiff, Virginia, was 17 when the abuse occurred, so he says she falls into this confusing window. In my opinion, this argument is meritless, and the judge did the right thing by allowing the case to continue.
Interesting. And what are your thoughts on Andrew's attorneys saying that this lawsuit lacked specificity and initially being disqualified by a deal that she reached back in 2009 with lawyers for Jeffrey Epstein?
So as far as the lack of specificity argument, this is a pretty typical defense move. So 9 times out of 10, before they even answer the complaint that's filed against them, most defendants will move to dismiss the complaint on grounds like this, that it's vague, it's not specific enough, and so on, these administrative issues. So that's pretty straightforward. The settle agreement argument, though, I think is a good move by them. I do think there are 2 main problems with this argument. The first being everybody involved with the settlement agreement agreed that Prince Andrew was not named in the settlement, he was not involved in creating the settlement agreement, and he did not know it existed at the time it was created. So the plaintiffs have a pretty good argument that this agreement doesn't apply to Prince Andrew. But the second thing, perhaps the better argument, while the settlement does say it releases claims against other potential defendants, the settlement agreement addressed a case that was filed specifically in Florida. And so Prince Andrew is not now and would not have been subject to Florida's jurisdiction at the time of the agreement. And there's no allegations against him in this case that would subject him to Florida jurisdiction again. There's no allegations of abuse that occurred in Florida. So he's really not a potential defendant that this settlement agreement may apply to. So I think the plaintiffs have some strong arguments to get around that.
Okay. And so the Buckingham Palace said that it would not comment on the ongoing legal matter. Do you see their attorneys speaking out anytime soon?
I don't. So they've yet to speak out on much. When the attorneys do comment, they adamantly deny the allegations and claim that the plaintiff is really just in this for the money. And honestly, I don't blame them for not saying anything, because when they let at least Andrew try to rebut some of these allegations on his own, he does a horrible job. He first said he never met Virginia, even though there's the picture of them together. Virginia specifically says that she and Andrew, went to a nightclub and she was trafficked afterwards. And she mentions the specific allegation that Andrew, sweated all over her. His response to that is that he can't sweat. He has no proof of that at all, but he says it can't be me because I can't sweat. He has these bizarre rebuttals to her allegations, so if I were his counsel, I would not be saying much about this either.
Wow, that's very interesting points that he tried to make. So now the prince has denied the allegations, as you said, of sexually abusing this victim. So at the time would have been 17. But aren't these types of cases harder to prove, as it can sometimes be, a supposed victim's word against an alleged perpetrator?
They absolutely can be difficult to prove. And in this case and others, the passage of time makes it more difficult as well. And in many of these scenarios, the girls are given drugs or alcohol by their trafficker, which compromises their memory further. However, with this particular case, the public seems to be on board with the idea that Epstein trafficked minors generally. We just saw that his partner, Ghislaine Maxwell, was convicted of trafficking minors as well. And it also seems well established that Epstein and Prince Andrew were friends. So at least Virginia and her team have that as a starting point, to demonstrate that she was trafficked at some point. Because the main hurdle will be, was she trafficked to Andrew specifically? But like I said, I don't think they will have a problem getting a jury to believe that she was trafficked by Epstein in general, which is often the most hardest part to prove about these cases.
Yeah, and it seems like after the whole Me Too movement, these cases are kind of maybe treated a little differently.
Yeah, I hope so. It does seem that people are ready to listen and believe women at this point.
Madeline Penley, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate your insight.
Thank you.